Hi guys, and thanks for tuning in today. If you've been looking through my blog over the last couple of weeks, you'll know that this is the third installment of 4 talking about the Xinjiang re-education camps and what's going on in China with the Uyghur minority right now. Today I have a guest with me. This is Danica Zink, and you want to say a couple things about yourself?
Sure. I'm a history major at the University of Toledo. I'm currently living in Wapakoneta, but that's pretty much all about me.
What I want to know is, have you heard of the Xinjiang re-education camps before?
I have. I end up on the political side of TikTok a lot. Political side of TikTok, get on Twitter, and I've seen a few things where people are just like, hey, this is going on. The media might not be reporting on it as much as they should be, but it's going on, and I haven't really done a lot of research on it, but because I'm like, I don't know what to do there, but I've definitely heard of them.
Yeah, I think that's what a lot of people are dealing with right now. They hear about it, but they're like, there's nothing for me to do about it, so why would I look into it more?
Yeah. On the political side of TikTok a lot. Political side of TikTok, get on Twitter, and I've seen a few things where people are just like, hey, this is going on. The media might not be reporting on it as much as they should be, but it's going on, and I haven't really done a lot of research on it, but because I'm like, I don't know what to do there, but I've definitely heard of them.
Yeah, I think that's what a lot of people are dealing with right now. They hear about it, but they're like, there's nothing for me to do about it, so why would I look into it more?
Yeah.
But I do have a couple of videos today to share with you all about kind of what's going on and why there needs to be some sort of intervention. Something needs to happen. So I hope you guys enjoy these videos.
Videos, great, lovely.
So Danica, what did you think while you were watching the videos? Was it more severe than you thought it was?
I don't want to say it was more severe. I think it was pretty on par from what I've heard, but definitely, especially the last clip talking about more female manipulation, IUDs, all of that stuff, that was a little bit more intense than I expected. I thought it was more along the lines of poor living conditions, forced indoctrination, stuff like that, but knowing that these women, even if they get out, they're going to have to live with that for the rest of their lives.
Yeah.
Which, that's trauma that I could never understand.
Yeah. Well, and there's that, but there's also the fact that they're calling this genocide because they're manipulating the population. Do you think that it's genocide? Because they're not necessarily killing the people, they're just preventing the people from reproducing.
I feel like it's almost a genocide of the future, which sounds awful, but I think that's a little bit more accurate. I think it still falls into genocide, but I feel like you're not seeing it now, but you're going to see it years later, where you're not going to have this large population of these Muslims that they're just not going to be there because the women can't reproduce. Right. So.
Yeah. And I think that that's where we're kind of falling short on the compassion, because they're not being killed. You know, they're not. They're just being forced not to procreate, and they're being forced to assimilate into Chinese culture, which is that something that you think we should take a stand on as a people, as a nation, or as a world?
It's really rough, because I think there should be public outcry for this, because if this continues and finally gets put to a stop, we're going to be looking back and go, oh my gosh, why didn't we stop this earlier? Why hasn't anything been done yet? And I'm never one to be like, everyone needs to be policing everyone else. I don't think there's a right answer of who needs to take care of this, but I think it needs brought up, and once it gets into the right hands of people in the UN, stuff like that, I think those are the kind of people that will be able to put a stop to it, or at least get it out globally a little bit more.
Yeah. Well, and the issue with the UN is that they have talked about it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they're aware that this is happening. They're talking to Chinese officials about it.
Mm-hmm.
But the problem that they're running into is that they don't have the power to stop it. The UN has been decreasing in power over the last years a lot. And so my question to you is, do you think the UN has the power to stop it if they wanted to?
That's a difficult one. I'm not too versed on all of their power there, but I think they would be at least be the ones to bring it more to the public.
Mm-hmm.
You would hope that people would listen. That people would listen to the words of the UN and talking, just getting it to the forefront, and then we might have more people trying to get their governments to intervene, whether it's directly intervene or go through the UN, fund more, and then go through it.
Right. Yeah. And it's just really a question of how important are other people's human rights to us. Which is just always the question of where do we draw the line, and should individual countries be stepping into this? Mm-hmm. And if they did step into this, would it cause a war? I know that I am worried with how closely tied the U.S. is to China economically. Mm-hmm. They own a lot of our debt. They have a lot of control over the U.S. And that worries me because, well, what if this gets out of hand, we try to stop it and do something about it, and then China comes and attacks us, and we don't have any power against them, and that whole problem of human rights shifts from this minority in China to the minorities in the U.S., which we already have problem with systematic racism there. And what if that turns into full-blown genocide like what we're seeing in China?
Yeah.
I mean, should it be on the U.S. docket of things to discuss?
Yeah. You're just thinking through. It's a difficult situation to be like, okay, the U.S. has this huge list of problems. Mm-hmm. Here's a foreign problem. Okay, but we say we've got these trade deals with China. How's that going to affect it? Even seeing the one video it's a British reporter from BBC that's mm-hmm. interviewing the Chinese ambassador, and you're already seeing the tension there. I couldn't imagine that between two actual political leaders, government heads. I could not imagine. And we're probably going to see it, mm-hmm. which is scary. Mm-hmm. But I would hope it wouldn't bring about a world war. I could see it kind of falling along those lines, but hopefully we can get a little bit more, not with firepower, essentially, is kind of what I'm thinking.
Right, more
see
diplomacy.
Yeah, if diplomacy will work, and could definitely be a difficult road, but that's what we can at least hope for.
Yeah. If the U.S. even takes a stand on this, which
correct.
At the current moment, we have a lot of problems on our own to be worried about, and I think that that's a huge thing right now, is that nearly every country around the world is in turmoil because of the upheaval that coronavirus has caused for so many of us. And so these other issues of human rights just are kind of going under the radar because everyone's struggling right now. True. And so if we let them go under the radar and we let that happen, then how many more people are going to be affected by this? There's already 1.8 million suspected to be affected. Yeah. And how long will it be until the Turkic Muslim, the Uyghur population and culture is completely eradicated? Mm-hmm. So it's a heavy subject. Mm-hmm. But the more I look into it, the more I see that it's affecting us, or it could affect us. And even if it doesn't directly affect us now, It might in the future.
Mm-hmm.
And besides that, even, it's just hard to know.
Yeah, that's the biggest struggle. We always want to stay, like, up to date, know what's going on in the world, and that's great of many people to learn about these things, but then it sits in your heart, and you're like, we're not doing anything about this. I can't do anything about it personally right now. I can't go fix all these problems. But they're there, and it just lives in the back of your mind.
Yeah.
But that's besides the point. That's just
it's huge though, because those things that like live in your heart and fester there, those are the things that we should find a way to do something about. You know? And I think right now the only thing to do, and the best thing to do, is to talk about it. And to get the word out there so that someone who is in power, someone who does have the ability to say something or do something, can and feels the need to do that. And I talked about that a little bit in my last podcast, about how I didn't have answers for people who wanted to know what to do about it. And that's really the only one I've come up with.
Just talk about it. Just try to get the word out. Oh, social media is great for that, but it's a scary place.
It is. It is. But we won't diverge into social
media.
No. That's a whole other deep dive that we shouldn't get into.
No.
It's gotten dark enough this morning.
Yeah. So, just a question for you.
Yeah.
Looking through this, like, you've been posting about this, you've been doing your research, has it been easy to access information? Or is... Okay.
There's been a lot of investigative journalists.
I'm sure.
Especially since this has been going on since 2017. So over those 3 years, the first, like, what I ran into first were the first reports of it. Were, oh my gosh, there's a secret camp in China, and this is happening, and then it escalated to talking to Chinese officials about, like, what's going on here. And they'd say, nothing's going on here. And then as more reports piled up, they said, okay, it's a re-education camp. They're here voluntarily to learn vocational training. It's a good thing, and it's supposed to help with our terrorism and extremist values, just kind of taking a step back on those. And the problem is that is a lie.
Yeah.
They're forcibly detained. And they're living in, there's another video that I watched that I didn't share today, but it's of this Vice News reporter going undercover in Xinjiang and just looking at what daily life is there. And they talked to this person on the train, and they said, so have you heard about these camps? And they were a Uyghur Muslim. And they said, yes. And they talked about it very briefly in the dead of night and had to disguise their voice and couldn't show their face. And he said, I could even be put into those camps for talking to you about this, or put to death.
Oh my gosh.
So they're afraid to say anything or to speak out or to do anything for themselves. And the only people who are speaking out are those who are safe, who have escaped the country. So that's what I've found a lot of, is more interviews with people who have escaped, the survivors of the camps. And like, it's even affected the U.S. There are some citizens from the Uyghur communities who went to college in the U.S. and going back to visit families have been detained.
That's wild.
Yeah. It's just, it's such a huge problem that no one is paying attention to. So, yeah. Is there anything else you wanted to talk about with it, though?
No, just one thing. You mentioned how we're very focused on coronavirus right now. I couldn't even, it just sparked, I was like, imagine dealing with coronavirus as a Uyghur Muslim right now in a camp. It's just everything piles up on it.